Hey, what's up everybody? John Highley here with this big deer hit. I'm going to take you guys through this tutorial and kind of show you exactly how I work on a dent that stretches from the top to the bottom of a bedside. A few little obstacles that we're going to go over on this one are going to be exactly how to fix this stretched area right here where the crack is in the paint. You can see here very, very stretched. But anyhow, let me go ahead and jump into showing you exactly how we're going to move along this large dent. Alright guys, so here in Ohio it's very, very cold. So one of the first things that I actually did was bring this infrared lamp over here and start heating the damage. Now there's a reason here. I've got everything lined up with the pole that's in here, and we will get into that here in just a little while. However, we're going to be doing an off dolly technique. You can see here the dent ranges from here to here to here. Alright everybody, so as you can see, I am going to pump a stick of glue on this thing. Not quite a stick of glue, but what you're going to notice is as you're pumping the glue out, the trigger is going to start getting hard to push because literally you're getting into some of the glue that's a little bit cooler and it's not melting. But we get enough on there to cover that entire surface. And what I did was I dropped it right below the sharpest crown that was at the very, very top of the damage. I'm going to go ahead and hook this to the pole. And you can see here what I'm doing is I'm cranking down the strap. You want to get this strap very nice and tight. And you can kind of see that it's starting to move the metal right now. So you notice I just checked how tight the strap is, and I just tightened it a little bit more. You've seen that? You've seen how I actually moved the metal out? And you can actually, if you didn't see that, rewind it a little bit, and you can kind of see how the crown started to come down once I started to pull it. So right there is the area. Right there is where I got the strap hooked up. And you can see my setup here is you got to be careful. I'm going to make a mistake here. I'm actually going to go after that crown as much as I can, but I'm going to work this without putting a towel over it. I do recommend putting a towel over this area right here, so that way as you're working it, or if you're standing back there and you're cranking it down, it doesn't come back and smack you in the face. But the idea is giving the crown somewhere to actually flow. So while I'm working this, you actually see me I kind of tapped on it a little bit with the back of the hammer, and I said, nah. I'm going to turn it around here, use the top of that titanium Tactical, and I'm using a 1-inch round rubber ball. And I'm just going to smack that thing and just see how much of it I can actually get to flow out. But you can kind of see that thing. It's just driving into that. And, the thing is, if we didn't put this pressure here, it would be very hard to get the crown to flow anywhere that we actually want it to go. You'll see in some of the other pulls that I do that you can see the crown actually roll towards the glue. So sometimes a crown is just held in there because of the dent. And once you begin to pull the dent out, you'll actually see. Now here's a trick right here. Right there I am using a window wedge. If you can't get that thing off there, a plastic window wedge will work. Just be careful with it. If you're tilting it at all, you can dent the vehicle, but it came off just fine. Now you get an idea of what it looks like. And the one thing you don't see a bunch of holes in that crown. That's practically impossible to move one without none at all. But I'm actually going to go right up here to this top crown. You can see that's bowing all the way through, and then eventually I'm going to get down in here and release some of that down there. Because I got a real nice, see that bulge, that smiley face down there? We're going to have to tackle that eventually. But here's where I can say that you actually see a little bit of that crown. Let's see if you can see it from this angle. As I start to ratchet it down, and what I've got here is a large Keko tab, as I said earlier, and I just bought a O-ring to screw into it. But just watch the crown as I start to pull tension in this. Just watch it. See it? See it starting to come down a little bit? There you go. Now that shows on that one big pull that I put in there, you've seen the crown start to roll down towards the glue tab. That's the key. We're trying to give it as absolute much direction as possible. Now I'm actually using the back of the Tactical, the crown killer part of it, and just kind of just trying to drum it out. As I go, I want to flip it upside down, and that's just a harder, heavier hit. Now you can kind of see, there you go. You actually seen that. If you go back, you've seen that crown just start to roll into that glue tab. Now look at that. Look at how the crown has practically disappeared after that last pull. And what you'll notice is as you begin working the crown down, you'll literally see the cord get loose. And when the cord loosens up, but you can see that just took that whole crown out of there. That's an ideal situation. You know, I mean, when that happens, I absolutely love it. It's not going to happen every time. And on a dent this big, there's going to be some areas that are going to give us problems. But we're just going to keep on working towards the solution. And now I want you guys to really check this out and watch this, because I'm connecting here to the bottom. And this is going to be an example of when you begin doing some of these pulls methodically, you can actually see other areas of the damage begin to work their way out just by pulling some of the main impact points. You actually seen that just come in. It just swelled into the panel. And I will tell you guys that majorly reduces the size of the crown. So I guess what I'm trying to get here is that if you do your crown work first, you might not even be working on a crown. You might be working on a wave that's in there because of how deep the dent is. And one of the things that I keep driving home, and I know a lot of you guys talk to me about it when I see at the Mobile Tech Expo or when we talk about some of my podcast, but one of the things that I drive home is you want to make the metal flow. And I'm going to give you an example of that right here. So look, it loosened up right here. Now watch the arrow right here. That big back part of the dent that's in there that was going through that body line, I want you to watch there. You see it? It literally, as I tightened down that strap, it took out the back side of that damage that's close to the wheel well. The dent literally, if you go back to the original dent photos, it stretched all the way into that wheel well, all the way to the top, near the top, and then all the way near the bottom, and then to the back of the tail light. That pull right there affected how far it stretched into the wheel well. So again, you want to control the metal flow, y'all. And that's what we're doing by pulling tension and doing the crown work. We're giving the crown somewhere to go. This is my first attempt to work down that big, nasty line. And I'm doing it with that tension down there at the bottom, because not only is that glue tab going to be pulling some tension and giving me a place for the metal to flow, but it's also going to stiffen the panel up. I don't know if you guys seen this, but some folks are putting on the Vince D'Alessandro came out with a magnetic mat called the Magnatech. And I think it's spelled T-E-C-K, Magnatech. And some people are putting that on the panel to stop vibration. Anytime you put something on the panel like this glue tab that's sitting right here and it's pulling pressure, it's going to stop a certain amount of vibration, giving me just better, sharper hits on the top of that crease line. I'm not going to get a whole lot to move right there, but now I'm going to that second peak. You guys literally seen the crown roll from way up there. You actually seen the crown roll down. Now it can get dicey when you get here, though. I think this area right here, it kind of turns into a main impact point at some level of the repair. But you can just see it as I'm pulling. Do you see the whole vehicle move sideways? It is crazy how strong this is. And here's what you should be doing. You should be putting the microfiber over that area. There you go. You see that big pull right there, guys? Big, big pull. And I think that's why I put the microfiber over there, because I knew I was pulling it to that next level. Now I'm going to try to use some massive accuracy here and get in there with the soft tip knockdown and literally pinpoint that crown. It's kind of like an upside down V, and you can even see where it stretches way back into the other side of the panel. But I'm a fan of isolating things. So if I'm working with my, see, I checked the line right there to make sure it didn't loosen up on me. But as I'm working this crown, I'm isolating it near the actual pull point. If I went ahead and worked way, way back there behind it, I would be too far away from the glue tab and the metal wouldn't have anywhere to flow. All in all, though, once I get that area lifted and get this area lifted, I'm going to have, once I gain stability, I'll be able to work anywhere I want on this panel. But that's the key. We're not even out of the woods yet on this. We're out of the woods once the entire panel is up and it has stability. It's not buckling, it's not oil canning, it's just nice and stable. And at that point, it's just time that we got to put in the repair. This one, ideally, I was trying to save more than anything because the tail light was really hard to get out. It's like it almost locked the tail light in place because of the movement of the metal. And it's just very flimsy, but you can kind of see here how far that I've came along. These are a few of the pockets that are giving me trouble. I'm going to go in and do some glue pulling after I do a little bit of pushing with a soft tip, but I'm not really going to be able to get much of a soft tip or, gosh, we're looking at this, we're thinking, wow, I'd like to get an anaconda in there or something and really crank it out. But the problem is I got a metal wheel well down there, and I have no way to get that big of a tool in there. And I'm using factory access, 100% OEM factory access on this thing. I'm not drilling any holes. I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff. So to move this out, I'm going to be mainly using a Zircus tool. Now I will fit a, here in a second, and you'll see I'll actually put a soft tip in it for a moment. But first I want to use some Cola Fria. So that is one advantage I have with the Cola Fria. I'm going to see how much of that big part of that dent I can unlock. Now, if you guys have never used Cola Fria before, it's a cold glue, and you can kind of see me stretching it and putting it on there. The more you stretch it, the hotter it gets, the better it pulls. But look how much of that just pulled out. Definitely pulled a lot of tension out of that center. So it's starting to give me something that I can work with and something that I can begin molding out. At this point, when I look at the damage, I'm like, yep, we're good. We're out of the we're out of the park. I mean, I don't see anything at this point that's going to give me any issues as far as stability or being able to repair it. Definitely got some crowns that we still got to work out there, but honestly, if you look at it, even if you look at it from this angle, you can see that we've came very, very far in this repair. So I'm going to go ahead and try to really take this edge up a little bit. That edge is actually bowed down, and you could have seen that in the last frame or the last part of the video there when you seen the big bow inside of there. I'm going to try to swell all that to the back side of this the hole right there that you put the tail light in. So I'm really trying to swell that thing all the way back there. And honestly, guys, again, like I want some tension in this panel. So I'm going to keep that tension in there, and I'm going to go through that top opening, and I'm going to put the soft tip in there and do a little pushing. The problem I had with this, I kept losing my soft tip, and I probably could have taped it on there. But as you're working, it's kind of a twist-push situation, and it was continuously just causing the soft tip to work itself off of the end of the panel or the end of the tool. So there you go. I really can't get it any further down than that. Now you can see here that I got a couple, actually 3 factory holes that I can use there, and I will be able to fit a Zircus rod in there. And a lot of this, the damage is so tight and so concentrated. So basically I've got it all pushed out to the point to where I've got impact points here. And working these impact points, I'm actually going to be using sharper tips quite often. We're going to do some more glue pulling first, though, see how much of this I can get up and see how much of it I can get to work out on its own. You can see there I actually cranked it to the point where it actually popped off. All right, going to put a few more soft tip pushes on this bad boy. That's as low as I can get. I can't really get that lower dent that's down there. Really, I'm just kind of working up above the hole that I'm in up there. Just one little push at a time, because really I'm bottoming out. You see how I'm bottoming out on the bedside? So I can only raise it up so high. So essentially I'm just going straight in. I can't really go much further down into the panel. But it's all good for what we're doing right now. And that's working the top of it. So you can see here, I'm going to go into the area with a glue tab that I couldn't reach. We're going to go ahead and take a pull. I'll tell you what, the metal was stubborn this time around. I really wanted to. I mean, I'm using these Black Plague big glue tabs. And I mean, these things pull insanely hard. But in all honesty, like I took that pull, it really didn't even look like anything happened. You know, these dents, you grapple your way through them. So taking advantage of a little downtime and doing some blending work with the hammer while I'm waiting for the glue to set up. It's always a good idea to do two things at the same time if you can. Just keep in mind, remember you got a glue tab on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook up. I think we definitely get a decent pull on this one. Check that out. Yeah, you know when that sucker's not coming off and you're pulling the crap out of it, that you're getting a great pull. Here's a little trick. Spray some on there and then pull it. Twist it a little bit. Be careful though, when you twist, you got to be pulling out at the same time. You don't ever want to twist into it. You can see there I got a good pull. Took that low up really nice. Now I'm just going in there with a soft tip and knocking it down. So there we go. That's what we're working with. Got a little low up here. I'm going to use a round tab. It's a round low. I'm going to use a round tab on it. That's a Black Plague tab as well. That's the old ones. That's the Black Plague gray tabs. I still love them things because they got a lot of flexibility to them. The green ones, they're stiff. The gray ones got a lot of flexibility. So I had a little low going that way, so I'm going to go ahead and put that boat in there and just crank that thing right up. And again, really, really good pulls. The part right here in the middle is the part that had given me the most problems throughout the whole repair. That and the bottom. There was two pockets that I believe was literally holding in most of the impact. They were basically holding in the entire damage through these two pockets. And essentially, when we lift all the metal up, we get down to these impact points. Just doing a little knockdown work. I mean, look at this big, big pull right there. And honestly, it doesn't do much. Doesn't do much at all. Right here's some cross-checking work. And even though I can't push from this angle, I can tap from this angle. So it's important to be able to step back at one point in the repair and look at it from that other angle and just make sure that everything's shaping up the way that you want it. Cross-checking it is very important, and we're at this level in the repair, I definitely want to cross-check the top. Got to learn how to swing that blending hammer, man. You can see I got a dancing piece of glue there on the end of it. Yep, now it's hanging down by my hand. All right, so you can see I'm using the crown killer. I went from the crown killer to the black rubber ball. The one black rubber ball I have on the end is another Black Plague thing. All right, so there you go. You can see the big, deep pocket right there in the center. It did shallow up a little bit, but essentially this right here is what I have to work with going into a real nice pushing session where I'm going to be taking in a Zircus rod, which is a sharp rod, and I'm going to begin working all the way through this area right here and concentrating it. I'm going to start with the worst areas, but then I'm going to work my way through the whole damage. You can see I got a real big, you guys might not have seen that when I went past it, but I also got a big crown up towards the top pocket of that tail light. But I'll be going down through here for the bottom as well. Got several different holes I can go through to get all that through here, but down through the bottom I got a couple holes that I'm going to go through as well. And I also got that opening down there at the very bottom. Essentially, I was able to get a tool all over this dent. So it is kind of tight in there, but I was able to make it work. You can see I actually got a Zircus tool there. It's a 24-inch. I got that from PDR Finesse. The things are ridiculously strong. Ridiculously strong. But you can see I'm kind of tapping that eyebrow up there at the top. And I'll be fighting that thing for a little while. But I'll be getting into some pushing as well. So going back and forth there and doing some pushes. Now there you go. You see me getting into that deepest pocket. And essentially using a sharp tip tool was really my only option, but it's also a good option. The more you learn how to use sharp tip tools, the more that you find that you can push and it will move the metal fast. it's the whole scenario that literally, like, if you touch the tip of your finger on the top of a bullet tip, you're not going to say ouch. If you touch your finger on the end of one of these sharp tip tools, you're going to say ouch. And that's exactly how the metal works as well. So it doesn't take as much pressure to move metal because the diameter of the tip is much, much smaller. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. You learn how to use them, you'll be able to shrink metal, you'll be able to really move it nicely. And now you can see I'm kind of switching my tip as well on the blending hammer. I'm using that titanium tip. That's a flat tip, and the blending hammer is actually the Tactical Titanium, which is phenomenal. I've only given that thing away. I'll take that back. I did sell 2 of them at one of the Mobile Tech Expos. 2 guys came up, they asked about them, I had some there, and that's the only time I've ever let them things go and actually sell them to somebody. Every other time, I basically just gave them away as gifts. So you can see here that I'm stepping up and kind of looking down at it there, and still just working that entire area right there. Kind of give you an idea of where my head is. Like basically the dark part of that fog, you know where I'm at, because when I hit it and I lift it up, it turns to light. That fog is dark because the light is not shining into the interior of it. But I know where I'm at when I lift it up because it gets bright and shiny because I'm lifting it up towards the light. All right, so we're going to go to town on this thing for a little bit again. And I don't get much much footage of this, but eventually it comes down. Eventually it goes away. So there you go. You guys can kind of see where I'm at right now after going through and concentrating with that sharp tip tool. But now I'm at the point where the upper part's stable. I'm going to go down here into this bottom part. So you can see here, I'm going to take you through this. I mean, this whole area is kind of oil canning. And I knew that it was going to oil can until I stabilized the very bottom of the damage. But something just compelled me to kind of swell this line up a little bit so I could get in there and do some knockdown work. You know, I really wanted to get some of that tension out of here before I went into the bottom of the damage. It's debatable, though. I probably should have went into the lower part first, created a little bit more stability, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. But you can kind of see how that whole area is sloping into that lower part of that dent. And in all honesty, an area can oil can just because of that. Just because it's got a subtle slope all the way down into the lowest part of the damage. And you're going to kind of see just that as I begin doing the knockdown work. And so again, doing some concentrated pushes, you can kind of see how I'm pushing back in behind it. I'm trying to create a little stability around it. So when I start hitting this very, very sharp line, that it can take the impact, but again, it's still oil cans. Like, you can look at this thing and you can see I'm using a VIP. I'm using one of the sharpest metal knockdowns on the end of that VIP tool. Badass knockdown, by the way, guys. It comes with 4 tips. It's the VIP 3.0. And I use this thing. It's pretty much the only knockdown that's in my hand. I do have different tips that I'll put on it, but man, the tips that he put together for this thing are phenomenal. He's got the really tight one that you see me using now. He's got one that's much broader as far as a metal tip. He's also got one that's designed to knock down tiny creases. So it's kind of like a crease knockdown. And then he also created a plastic one that has been great as well. You can see me just kind of working through it. And you'll see once I get the tool back in there how the thing is, it's just kind of sloping into that big dent back there. And or the big dent down there. And as I push it, look at it oil canning. Thump, thump. But look what it's going down into. It's swelling right down into that biggest dent. So essentially, I got to create stability way down there before I can fully stabilize this area that I'm working on. It's that whole thing of bringing things up with balance, y'all. Like, once I stabilize that area down at the bottom, I'm not going to have issues with this top area like I have been. It's just going towards the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is down there in that unnatural dent that's down there at the bottom. So finally I get the idea, like, hey, better start working on that part down there at the bottom. And that's when things really start to shape up. So you can see here, again, I'm working with a really tough area right here. But I'm going to show you guys, it does swell up nicely. It gets off the shoulder of that creased area up there, and that's really what I was looking for. I was looking for it more or less to just get off that shoulder and give me the ability to work the upper and the lower area with the tool effectively. I didn't want to just dive right in there with the tool the way that it was. I just didn't want to risk that many push marks. You can see here using the hammer time, just to knock down that surrounding little pinch in the bottom of that. Also that nice pinch way down there at the bottom. I mean, you're going to find yourself doing this throughout this whole repair. This is one of them ones that when you start unlocking it, crowns appear that you've never seen before. And crowns will disappear that you think was something that you were going to have to take down, something you were going to have to work down. So you get new ones, and then you get ones that will just disappear for you when you're doing some of your pulling work. That's why dent removal is so reactive. You know, that's the key, guys, is being able to grapple your way through a dent, is being able to react with it and understand these principles that I'm talking about here, the balance, the metal movement, to know when you got to shrink the damage, to know when you got to go in there and tool it. That's some of the most important things that you should be learning, especially if you're watching this tutorial. I mean, you're in the advanced area. Look at that, man. That really took that down off that shoulder. Put a nice little high spot in that upper shoulder. But you notice we had to do that knockdown work first. Look, when metal's trapped somewhere, it's not going to let metal move up anywhere else. When metal's trapped, it's trapped. And you got to do one thing or the other. You're either taking metal down or you're pushing metal up. And if you feel taking it down is not a good idea, try pushing it up. If you try pushing it up and nothing will stick, then you got to jump back to taking it down. Until eventually you get that stuff to move. You can see right there big time. I mean, I'm way off the shoulder now of that area up there, and I pulled the damn stem right out of the tab, which I don't care. I mean, that has probably been through 500 pulls, and at some point I'm going to break it down. It's going to wear out. So guys, you can see now that I've got that concentrated down into very, very little small areas. You know, when you do this, I mean, I'm human. I'm just like you guys. I'm going to beat it up a little bit. I wish every single strike I did was flawlessly perfect, but in all honesty, I think it would probably take 2 weeks to fix this dent if it was that way. So you can see now, actually, I got the circus rod down there. You guys don't see that now. You'll see it here momentarily. But I'm taking little tiny sharp pushes, and I'm telling you guys, I could barely get this thing into where it's at. Now, as I'm working it, it gets easier and easier to get down in there. However, it's kind of mashed up against the interior of the taillight right there, and you're going to kind of see my struggles here in a moment. There I go, taking a little piece of glue off of there. And you're going to kind of see what I'm doing here. See, I'm pushing with it, but it'll get stuck, and it'll get kind of jammed up in there. And see how hard I'm actually pushing to get it to my spot? You'll even see there, see me push it like that? That's me just dialing it right into the right place it's supposed to be. And then it will drift past it, and then I'll have to yank it back. Man, that's real-world struggles on real-world dents. So you can see me just kind of taking my head, looking at it from left to right. And I am still working this at an upper elevation, but notice my neck. It's cranked way down that way. So at some point, I'm going to have to say, shit. And I'm going to have to jump into a seated position, and I'm going to have to get down there lower and eye level to it. But you can see here by working through there little by little, man, that sucker's finally coming out. You can kind of see it down here from this angle. You can see, I've got some holes, man, but we're out of the woods, y'all. We are out of the woods, which basically means it's stable. I can actually stop sweating now, man. I'm going to be able to get paid on this job, which is sometimes the worry when you start working on a big job like this. But I'm telling you guys, you follow these principles, you'll be able to grapple your way through any dent that comes your way. And that's when you get to the next level as a technician, y'all. Honestly, it's when you don't give up on certain repairs, man. I mean, that's what ultimately makes it happen. You don't give up, So we're going to jump in and do some more pushing up here, guys. You can see here I'm kind of taking that circus tool right in there. Again, that's the 24-inch version. You know, the thing about PDR Finesse, people talk about, certain company tools and things like that, but the metal hardening process that they go through is phenomenal, because this little tool is pushing like a damn, 30, 35, 36-inch rod. And it's in there making badass, precise pushes exactly where I want them. Strong as can be. There I am, just kind of sitting eye level with it. You guys can see I got the sledgehammer down there waiting. I got the sledgehammer down there below me waiting, because that sucker's going to be going in that lower part of that dent. I mean, you seen how I was struggling earlier trying to get the tool to it? Well, I'm going to show you guys a little trick. And some of you guys who listened to my Tactical Dent Tech podcast, I recently dropped a Tactical Tuesday episode. If y'all ain't listened to it, man, you guys better get on it. I do Tactical Tuesday and Marketing Monday. And I dropped an episode just about sledgehammers and my love for sledgehammers, which I'll kind of explain that here once I get to that point. But you can see I'm just picking dots out, man. I'm finding a little dot and I'm putting a push right between it. Another little dot and putting a push right between it. Because I know I'm going to have to wet sand on this. I'm just going to take it to that next level. I'm going to have to wet sand a little bit on it. And the closer I can get this pattern together, the better it's going to look when I wet sand it. So if you got a big gaps in between your patterns, you're going to have problems when you wet sand it. It's just going to look the same. We're going to look like a big wobbly wave here and there, like big waves everywhere. Now you can see me using Pitor's VIP3 knockdown again. Nice little sharp hits, switching out to the blending hammer. You're going to be doing this through these whole repairs, man. When you're not blending, you're knocking down. When you're not knocking down, you're pushing. That's just the way it is. All right, so up here, I feel like I'm getting it pretty damn dialed in. And now I'm going to work through a little bit the bottom of the repair. And this right here, y'all, is about when I go grab a seat. So hang tight. I'm going to grab the Mac. I don't know, it's like a little tiny yoga mat or some shit. And I'm going to sit here Indian style and get eye level as I can to the bottom part of this damage. I kind of envy you guys with a lift. And then right here's the sledgehammer, man. So there's little lows in there. Now, I couldn't get the camera on this because see where my head's at? That's where the camera would need to be. But I'm just barely tapping it, man. And yeah, it's creating little tiny high spots, but they're not bad. And that's a raw sledgehammer as well. So I was able to just put some little hits right down there. But man, it moves it quick. And sometimes if you want to move bigger metal, wrap some duct tape on it. Use it that way. But man, it is looking clean as a green bean. And again, I'm just trying to get it just right before we go into some wet sanding. Go, get in there and just push some more of that out. This is the final tweaking, y'all. Final tweaking. I get some of it through the hole, some of it down below. But this is where you're like push, tap, tap, push, tap, tap, because I'm getting ready to wet sand this thing. So let's jump in there and check it out. There we go. Decided to speed this up, man. I knew you guys didn't want to sit here and watch me wet sand the whole damn time. So moving it, speeding up, making it faster. All of it, man. And I wet sanded a lot more than this. I cut this clip down, man. I really got in there and went to town on this one. Really had to, just to take it to that next level. There I go, polishing it up. Shining her up. And that right there is the Milwaukee cordless buffer. For any of you guys are like, what the hell is that? Milwaukee cordless buffer, man. Best $500 I ever spent. All right, guys, so there you are. You can see the finished product here. Looks pretty damn good. I mean, I never say perfect on something like this, man, but you look back and you think about what we actually had. So take a look at it right now and check the bottom out right here. But take a look at what we actually had, man, after I show you this. So we literally went from this right here, top to bottom, big old nasty one by the wheel well, all the way to this right here. That's what I love about this job, man. This guy came. I didn't even think he's going to do this, man. We're talking about old Colorado. But he came. He loved his truck, and he loved the repair that was done on it. But check out this natural reflection. There we go. There we go. And anyhow, guys, I'm going to see you on that next one.